Hey everybody, it's Stitch1993 and welcome back to another toy hunting video. And today I am at JoeFest 2025. I was visiting some family in South Carolina, and on the way back I stopped in Augusta, Georgia, which was really about the halfway point between where in South Carolina where I was visiting and my home in Georgia. I had never been to JoeFest before, but I heard it was pretty decent. It's like one of the three main toy conventions for Georgia. And yeah, so as you see here, I'm looking at one of the booths outside of the main hall. And I want to say this gave me a very good first impression. This table had a lot of stuff there. From action figures to McDonald toys to robots. Had a little bit of everything there, so I was really hoping that the rest of this JoeFest would be like this, but it really wasn't. So JoeFest is predominantly a G.I. Joe centric toy convention. I want to say it's probably about 60 to 70% G.I. Joe figures being sold there, and then other booths are other stuff, as you'll see here. But if you're into G.I. Joe, definitely check this place out here. So I'm just looking around and just showing of the mostly non-G.I. Joe booths, what I was able to find or what was interesting. I did pick up one thing here. I'm not really going to show it because it's for one of my relatives there that's looking for something to collect. It's not something I personally collect, so I'm not going to be showing it off here. I did actually buy a couple Christmas presents for people here, but yeah. And then after that, I just kind of checked out the rest of the other booth outside. This one was a lot of wrestling stuff. As you can see here, wrestling action figures, video games, DVDs and VHSs. Just something I never grew up with, but you never know what could be hidden there. But it mainly was wrestling stuff there. And then the booth over from that had mostly just some Funko Pops and other like video games that you see pretty much everywhere. Your Just Dances and everything like that. So afterwards, I decided let's go ahead and check out the inside of the place there. Alright, so walking in the doors there, it is one section with two floors there, with the main floor being the biggest of area there. Yeah, as I said, pretty decently sized place here. As you can already tell, a lot of G.I. Joe stuff, both in what people are selling as well as what people are wearing. It's just not something I ever grew up with. By the time I've said this in past videos, but by the time I really got into toys, G.I. Joe was kind of like out the door, wasn't on television. I don't even think the stores were really carrying it that much. And then by the time it started getting popular again, I just wasn't the age for it. But there was a couple of booths that had some interesting stuff. This one in particular had these like almost life-size versions of some of the G.I. Joe action figures there. Only reason why I know the one dude is the Mohawk guy is because of Pixel Dan. I have no clue who this person is, but it was really cool. And yeah, you could, as that person is doing there, move them. They weren't just statues, they were actual like figurines there. And then this first booth caught my eye, mainly because they had, at first I just saw the original Street Shark stuff there up on the top shelf. They had some other stuff too, like Defenders of the Earth and TMNT, Mask. But then they had some of the newer Street Sharks that came out last year, including one I didn't have. I believe that was Jab. The one at $35, I know he has gotten a bit more expensive online recently there, and so I was like, maybe I did have a smaller budget than usual for this outing, so I wasn't going wild like I usually do. So I was really trying to make sure I got just some really good stuff there. So I was like, maybe I will come back to that figure, because they had a couple of them if I don't find anything else or I don't spend all my money. This booth also had some really cool stuff here. They just kind of had a hodgepodge of a little bit of everything there. So they had some coloring books for like Frankenstein and Batman, The Mask. I thought this was a Nintendo coloring book, but it's actually a folder, like one of the little binders that you'd put in school for the 3-ring binders there. But still, they had a Fraggle Rock and some video games there, cassettes. I believe they even had some VHSs there. I have no clue what that was. I saw it had a Goosebumps tag on it, and that was it. They also had some G.I. Joe stuff, but it wasn't as much as some other booths were. We got, I saw this Sailor Moon figure there. At first I was going to pick it up for my wife, but it looks like it's a smaller scale version of a doll she already has. I know she's looking more for the Barbie sized ones, like I want to say like 12-inch versions. So I had to pass on that. They did have, as you see, more G.I. Joe stuff the further you went into there. And yeah, just a little bit of everything there. Yeah, as you see here, that's kind of what most of the booths look like. Just you know, shelf to shelf G.I. Joe stuff. Which again, if you're going to this looking for G.I. Joe stuff, this is probably one of the best toy conventions in Georgia to check that stuff out. I'm sure you'll find some really good deals there. I saw a bunch of people just carrying almost tubs of this G.I. Joe stuff out to like their cars and stuff there. And yeah, this next booth over here, they also had just a bunch of like He-Man stuff, which again, just something that wasn't around when I was growing up. So, and then by the time it got reintroduced, wasn't the right age range, I don't think, for that. But yeah, we kind of just went around the perimeter, and then we went up and down the like 3 aisles there. Plenty of room, as you can see, walking around there. That was one thing I love. Plenty of room. This was like the beginning of June. This was Saturday, so it was June 22nd. They had the AC on full blast, so it felt great in there, even with all those people around. So you know, no issues with that there. One minor thing was the bathrooms. The ones outside, half of them were kind of blocked off by sellers' booths. It was really weird. But once you went inside, there was more bathrooms to check out. So, you know, just a minor complaint there. I've seen this same booth at Toylanta. He just has a bunch of $6 Million Man figurines, like all in box, and a lot of them signed by Lee Majors there. It's just such an interesting thing to see there. Doesn't look like maybe he either, you know, had a smaller booth or had sold a lot of stuff at Toylanta, because he didn't have as much as he was showing up at Toylanta. I think you saw in that video there was a whole slew of stuff there. Okay, so this Bedtime Bubba, I didn't pick him up there because it was $50, but I was pointing out that I was like, I remember wanting one as a kid. It just looked so cool, because, you know, on the commercials it seems like they could do everything under the sun, and then in reality he's just kind of a plushie that has like maybe 1 or 2 catchphrases, and you can turn on his flashlight. Alright, so yeah, there's video games here. As I've said in the past, normally when I'm at toy conventions, I'm not in a video game buying mood, but I have been trying to find a couple for my collection recently, so I was kind of in the mood for video game shopping, but not too terribly. Like, I wasn't going to go through each of those individually and look at them. I was just kind of giving a nice overview glance. This was also interesting. It looked like it may have been a Skydancer set. I couldn't really, it was a little too high up, and of course I had the camera that I'm holding, so I didn't want to like pull it down. Plus I saw the price tag, I was like, I don't want to accidentally break this, because that would be horrible. So that was left where it was. That was a lot of supernaturals there. I just was like, wow, I've only ever seen like, one or two in the wild, but this guy had like 3 or 4 racks of them. More video games. They're pretty decently priced, I thought. It was weird seeing Rayman for like $65. I don't know why that one is so expensive compared to some of the other ones in those cases there. But yeah, didn't really see anything that I would like needed. I mean, I found out recently I didn't have Mario Kart 64 in my collection. I could have swore that I did. I wasn't wanting to pay $50 for it right now. I mean, that's a semi-decent price for it. I just was not in the mood to pay that much for a video game right now. He did have some other kind of just hodgepodge of stuff there. Of course, G.I. Joe stuff, of course. But yeah, so he had this one little section that had some VHSs there, and I could have sworn this was a VHS at first based on the box, but it was actually a computer game. Yeah, Goofy Covers Government. I forget what. It's not for PC. It's something previously from that. Still sealed from Radio Shack. That was pretty cool. They also had this Milk Cap Mania. Basically, I'm assuming a VHS on how to play Pogs, but they couldn't say Pogs because that's the copyrighted name. And then also a how-to yo-yo video. So I was in the lookout for YouTube videos. I mean, VHSs for my YouTube channel for the VHS pile. I typically don't do or cover the how-to videos. I feel like that wouldn't be entertaining enough to really do, because I'd usually do like a commentary of what the VHS is about, and I would basically just be repeating whatever the person's saying on what and how to do said thing. But if that is an interesting thing, or there's a certain VHS you think that would be entertaining for me to cover for VHS pile, definitely let me know, because I'm always on the lookout for interesting VHSs. So yeah, more video games, but nothing I really picked up here. And speaking of VHSs, this is what I typically see at a lot of places, whether it's like antique store or thrift stores, but this is just kind of your general Disney and DreamWorks 90s and 2000s VHSs. Most of these have gotten several releases over the years through DVD and Blu-ray. I think the only one a couple bucks or maybe $10 for each. So I passed up on those because they're not VHS exclusive, or at least most of them weren't VHS exclusive. This other booth though had a lot of Pokemon stuff, and while I don't really collect the Pokemon memorabilia, it's just nice seeing it in the wild. It brings back those days of adolescence there. They did have these like jam or like Smuckers jars that were really cool. If I weren't traveling, if this was closer, I would have picked this Poliwhirl up, because Poliwhirl is my favorite Pokemon. I don't know if $20 is a bad price or not, because I wasn't doing research, but again, it was glass and we still had other places to go, plus hours of traveling, so I didn't want to like put that away and then break. But yeah, they had some of the Disney keys there, which these were like given away at the Disney stores at one point in time, usually for like when around an anniversary or movie would come out. So that's probably for the 2011 Winnie the Pooh movie, or it could have been for any sort of anniversary for any of the Winnie the Pooh stuff. They had a lot of Barbie there, and I found this Barbie at Barbie Birthday Party at Disney World, VHS, Epcot 1994. It was sealed, which is, always interesting to see VHS is still sealed. And yeah, it just really caught my attention. I have no clue what's on it. I do remember at a time Barbie was a character you could like meet in meet and get a signature of at Disney World, so I wasn't sure what it was going to include, but I had to pick it up. This booth is another one I could have sworn I've seen at Toylanta because it had a lot of similar stuff from one of the booths there. This was new though. These were all Robbie the Robot, like different. I don't know if these were like painted, like not hand, but like, yeah, hand painted, different versions. But yeah, a lot of them. I also, you know, some little dollar or six for $10 or $2 each, little hodgepodge of boxes of random stuff there. These always remind me of those Goodwill bags they used to have, where it's like whenever they get like a bunch of McDonald's toys or a bunch of like small stuff like that, they just kind of, instead of selling them individually, they would put it all in like a giant like Ziploc bag and like sell them for like $1 or $2 each there. But yeah, this booth has a lot of interesting stuff, including those Robbie robots there. They had a Feifel plushie. They had a couple puppets, and I was tempted to pick up one of them. Not the Lucky puppet, but there was another puppet. I was like, maybe, but right now I'm just like, where would I put it? Because I don't really do a lot with I'm a puppeteer, but I don't really do a lot with them right now, so it would just kind of go straight into storage, and I just didn't want to do that. So hopefully I found a better home than if it were with mine. Yeah, so you just had a bunch of tubs with a bunch of different PVC action figures and, you know, stuff you'd find at Burger King, McDonald's and such. Yeah, it was just kind of a whole slew of stuff there. I don't even know, you know, he had some of the older G.I. Joe stuff there, but nothing that was really calling to me there. I am looking for a couple McDonald Toys series. I didn't have any that I was on the lookout for, but yeah, he did have more Robbie the Robot stuff. Like he had this show it to you in a minute here, but he had like I think it was like a radio or something, and then a giant like remote controlled one. He had a lot of bobbleheads as well. Yeah, there we go. Giant $175 Robbie the Robot there. Some Hot Wheels, some Batman, some other plush stuff, and action figures. But again, nothing was really calling. He had some going around to the other side of his booth because he had some like board games. And, you know, I've always been interested in board games. I've covered a couple on this channel in the past, but nothing too interesting. That Mousetrap, I believe, is like the 1980s version of Mousetrap there. And there's some cassettes and some more little random pieces of toys there. Alright, so this was a video game booth, but these trophy toys called out because I had one growing up. I had the hockey one, so it looks like a regular trophy, but it will actually transform and it has a little wind-up feature on the back there, as you can see, and you would play a little kind of like arcade style game. Usually it was just like the hockey one was just you play this little hockey guy that's at the top there of the trophy, and you could flip him back and flip the little hockey pucks into the goal, and you had to do it. The little remote control would cause like the goalie to go back and forth there. They also had some strategy guides, none I was really looking out for. I was looking to see if he had any Nintendo powers. I even asked, the people there if they did, then they were like, nope, didn't carry any Nintendo powers. So that was unfortunate. They did have a lot of video games there, and again, I was trying to find some to, fill out my collection there. They had a copy of Evergrace, which is a fun game. It's by FromSoft and I believe it was a launch title for the PS2. I have a copy of it. My disc is messed up. I'm just looking for another disc. I'm probably just gonna find that loose there for $20. I think that was the case and disc. A little much for what I wanted to pay just for replacing a disc. But yeah, again, a good, selection of video games, and they were all pretty decently priced from what I could see. But there wasn't anything that really was like, I need to get this right there and then kind of thing there. But yeah, as you'll see, a whole bunch of games ranging from NES. He had a lot of boxed NES, I believe SNES games as well. N64 up through, I think PS4 was the most recent console games that they were selling there. But yeah, just nothing picked up. Alright, so I did find potato heads at a booth there. I'm always looking out for potato heads. This is the 1970s Romper Room potato head. He wanted $35 though, and with the condition the boxes were in, as well as, one of them said complete, but it was even in rougher shape than this box there. And it is just the, regular version. It's not even the extra sets. $35 is a bit steep in my opinion. I've seen them go for anywhere from like 15 to 25 complete in box and in much better condition. So I passed on those. He did have a lot of the Romper Room and like Fisher Price little type toys that came out from around this time, which I really liked just looking at everything. Most of it was complete in box as well. So that was really cool. And, but yeah, nothing else. And it was the potatoes, they were both the same thing there. As again, this box, even said complete, but really rough shape. This place, this booth right here had a bunch of trading cards, which I don't normally buy. I'm outside of Pokemon, I don't really buy a lot of trading cards. And these were a lot like based off like in the 80s and 90s, like film, like you see Jim Henson, there's Alf, Bill and Ted, Superman, and but they had some that I wasn't aware were made, cards. So there was the Rocketeer, and then we had the Black Hole, and I'm a big fan of the Black Hole, and I think these were like $3 a pop there. He even had some Tron as well, which I just thought were cool, so I had to pick up some of those. I did try to look and see, because yeah, on the bottom shelf you'll see he has some boxes that are like complete sealed, and you can just buy the whole box. I was hoping that he'd had one for the Black Hole at least, because I would have just bought the entire box if he had one, but unfortunately he didn't there. And I was like, I still had a lot more to look at. I was like, I don't really need to buy an entire box of these Black Hole cards. If I had a bigger budget, I probably would have tried to see how much he would take, because again, the cards are only $3 a pop, so I'm thinking somewhere in like the $40 to $60 range maybe. But yeah, it was just kind of cool seeing all these movies and television shows from the 80s and 90s having all these trading cards, back before it was more of just the like Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, stuff like that. This was all just kind of, one way to show that you were a fan of a certain film or television show. He'd had some pops that I don't really collect pops anymore, but he had some really interesting ones. Like there was Tom Servo and Crow from Mystery Science Theater 3000. He had the Toonami Tom right down there, as well as there was a orange Oscar the Grouch from when the original show aired. More Rocketeer, Judge Dredd, All My Children, Roger Rabbit, TMT. I think those were just sports, but with like some candy. He did have some Pokemon cards, and they were pretty decently priced in my opinion. The newer sets were, of course, a little bit higher than retail, so I was like, but like, that one right there, the Gordivar set, was only $12, which is pretty decent. I think they were, from what I recall, I think those were about $20 back in the day. But I wasn't in the Pokemon buying mood. And yeah, that was pretty much it. This is the top floor. It kind of had more of the same. It was a lot of Star Wars and G.I. Joe. Nothing that really, caught my attention or caught my fancy. So what did I pick up? I did pick up that Barbie VHS. Barbie Birthday Party at Walt Disney World, Epcot 94. Looks like this was like something at retailers where it's like, hey, if you buy any of these other Barbies listed below, you can get this VHS for 1 penny. And I didn't, I don't collect Barbie, but I do collect, interesting VHSs. So I just had to pick this one up, and yes, I will, once I do some research and watch it, I will talk about it here on the channel there and do a full review. So be, if you want to check that out or make sure you don't miss it, make sure to like and subscribe. I did find a loose Jab Street Shark figure. So at one of the other vendors, they had some of the new ones loose, and I'm for the Street Sharks, I'm not keeping them in the box because their boxes are so big, it takes up a lot of room because they got the cage that comes with it. So and this, the box one was $35. This one I believe was just $20, which I'm totally fine with paying, honestly, especially given how the price of this one is going up. And then I did pick up some cards there. I got a set of Black Hole trading cards, as well as a set of the Tron trading cards there. I'm not going to open them right now. I mean, I did open them, but to look at the cards when I got home, but I'm not going to do it like an unboxing on this channel. Maybe eventually, when I do find like an entire box of Tron or the Black Hole trading cards, I'll do a video then, because I think that'll be interesting than just me opening these cards that have like 10 and 8 cards without a lot of insight into them. And yeah, so overall I had a pretty decent time at this toy convention. Will I go back? Probably not, because Augusta is pretty far from where I live, and just with the time it takes to get there and how small the venue is, it just isn't worth my time, honestly. But as I said, if you are into GI Joes or just want to find a smaller toy convention and you live in or around the Augusta, Georgia area, definitely give this one a check out there. And I'll be doing these periodically as usual. And if you saw anything in the video you thought I should have taken a better look at, let me know down in the comments. And until next time, thank you and have a good day. Bye bye.